Welcome to the Lassoing Leadership podcast. I'm your host, Jason Rogers.
And I'm your host, Garth Nichols.
This is season 2 of the podcast, where we dive into an individual episode of the TV series Ted Lasso and learn more about how to lead in a better, kinder, and more compelling way. We've created this podcast out of our love of learning, leadership, and of course, Lasso. We're looking forward to season 2, where the show takes on new challenges of leadership, introduces new characters, and adds depth to the existing ones. It's going to be a great season for all of us.
Yeah, we're into our 3rd episode already. We aim to keep it no more than 20 minutes per episode, where we talk about our favorite characters, leadership nuggets of gold. We take a stab at renaming the episode just for fun. And then we like to leave with a leadership challenge based on what we've seen in the episode. And as we've been saying, one of our big learnings for us personally in season 1 was that we have our own blind spots. So we're welcoming more and more guests to the show. And today, I am thrilled to welcome Virgil Hill. Virgil's a really good friend. He's a great colleague, known to both Jason and I. He's a fantastic human. He's an educator. He's a coach at Fraser Academy. Welcome to the show.
Welcome, Virgil. Yeah, it's good to have you here.
Right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. I'm honored to be here. So I'm looking forward to this session.
All right, Virgil, be honest with us now. This is about honesty. It's about authenticity, all these things that Lasso talks about. You're a fan of Lasso. We know that. But are you a fan of this podcast? Do you even know what it's about?
Well, you know what? I've been following you guys for a long time. And so I've seen every single episode of your podcast. And so I want to live up to expectations. And so I've done my homework and taken some notes. So I'm ready to go.
Basically a super fan. It's good to have you here.
Yeah. Thanks, Virgil. And we do talk a little bit about what our listeners are up to. Jason, what have you been hearing from your mom and dad?
Garth, it's funny you should ask. The other day I was watching a 6-year-old play hockey at the rink, and my dad sat down with me and proceeded to talk to me for 45 minutes about our 20-minute episode. In short, he said, your 8-point scale for decision-making was too complex, and that we should consider the KISS method. I know it's a lot shorter than 45 minutes, that description of our conversation, but it went on and on and on. But that was generally the takeaway. At the end of it all, though, Garth, I gave him your phone number. It said, you should just save me and give you a call and talk about your 8-point scale. So if you hear from him, that's who you're hearing for, Barry Rogers.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I can't wait for the phone call, I think.
You got nothing but time, I'm sure. So there you go.
Anything else? What else have you been hearing?
Well, seriously, though, on top of that, I continue to hear from friends and leaders across country, as I know you do, Garth, as well. And I have a sense it's going to be a hot ticket at the CASE National Leaders Conference, which, Virgil, I know you're on the planning committee of that. So thank you for that opportunity. I know registration opens soon. So we're encouraging all of our friends and leaders to come from across country and get there and see us in Vancouver and take advantage of that early bird pricing. And one more thing.
Nice. But Jason, we do know there's other podcasts out there about Ted Lasso, and we've garnered some interest from at least one of them.
Yeah, I mean, we heard from David Coffey, who's a fellow podcaster, and he actually sent along an important correction. In an earlier episode, I know I said Rebecca's friend was nicknamed Stinky, and that's not true. I stand corrected. Rebecca's nickname is Stinky. That was my mistake. But the good news is, I think we've got an announcement about podcast collaboration coming up with David and the Teaching Like Lasso podcast. So I'm looking forward to that. Pretty good news.
Yeah, it's great. And it's also really fun to see what other podcasts are doing with this like really rich example of leadership. But hey, listen, Virgil's sitting here. He's getting ready to go. So let's jump in. Episode summary. This episode is called The Right-est Thing. The team struggles with Jamie's return. Sam withdraws from a photo shoot for Dubai Air sponsorship after learning about the company's environmental impact in Nigeria, leading to a team-wide protest. Jamie and Sam reconcile after Jamie supports Sam's actions. And that is like one of my favorite moments. So there you go.
Yeah, that's a way to reduce 35-minute episode into 35 seconds. Garth, well done.
Just a refresher.
Yeah, it was well done. Well done. Now, Virgil, in this episode, we always start with our favorite characters. And although I'm predictable and Garth is unpredictable, you're unknown to us. So tell us about what you saw. Let's start with your favorite character.
Well, my favorite character, I mean, the easy one is to say Ted Lasso, but my favorite character is actually Rebecca in this episode. She recognizes her power. She recognizes herself as a role model. And I think there's a shift in her from trying to perhaps destroy the club, and Rupert's love, first love and only love, to she now recognizes herself in Nora as a leader, and even that tension between sport and ethical decisions with the Dubai Air situation, she really stands firm and just recognizes her power. So she becomes my favorite character in this episode.
Man, that was an important moment when she stood firm, when, she was instructed to basically just get rid of Sam, and then said, no, in fact, I'm going to disregard that and move ahead. Garth, what do you think about that? Do you have
Well, first of all, I love that you pointed that out, Virgil, because that's standing on principle, that's standing on integrity. And, Rebecca's in an interesting situation, right? She's got lots to lose, but at the same time, she doesn't have much to lose. So in this case, she was able to say, she's able to stand by her integrity. And I like how you pulled it out between like that. There's a tension that exists there. For me in this episode, I'm back to where I started. Jamie Tartt. I love the way that his character is developing, and that moment, he's so vulnerable in that moment where he stands with Sam, and he's like, team uniform, right? We got to wear the same uniform on the field. That is like such a pivotal moment for him in his development. It is like 1 step forward, 8.5 steps back, 2 steps, he's making mistakes all over the place, but this was not a mistake. And I really appreciated that moment. What about you?
I think we start to see him get his legs here again, and I'm not surprised to hear you come back to him. And it was a close call this week, if you can believe it. I considered changing to Sam because I really appreciate his bravery and his principled. And I actually like Led Tasso a lot, but I think you know how this is going to go. It's always Roy Kent here for me. He's here, he's there, he's everywhere. And when speaking about his niece while walking with Rebecca, he says something I think is overlooked and said so quickly, but I want to come back to it. He said, look, most adults think kids need to be constantly entertained. He goes, that's BS. I didn't need an effing parade every day growing up. Did you? Truth is, they just want to feel like they're part of our lives. And for me, in education, in leadership, I think this is an absolute key. Allowing students to know that they're part of our lives, our school, our community. Roy Kent for the effing win. And so with that, I think it's time to jump into a leadership lesson. We've got a guest here, and I really want to hear Virgil's opinion on what was a leadership lesson in this episode. Take it away, Virgil.
Well, there's so many leaders in this, and I think, the thing that I saw was a lot of distributed leadership. Even though Ted and Rebecca lead the organization, one is the coach and one is the owner and general manager, essentially, with Higgins. They all lead. Sam leads, Ted leads, Jamie, Rebecca, Nora, etc. And so there's lots of courage on display. People stepping out of their comfort zone and standing up for what they believe. And as Garth said, a lot of integrity, and holding to your, to one's values. And I thought that's what I saw on display in this episode.
Virgil, go ahead,
Jason. Okay.
What strikes me there, Virgil, is, the idea of distributed leadership really does work in the instance of Lasso and Rebecca and the team, because not only are they giving it away, but they're allowing people to make their own mistakes. Like, they've got authority to make decisions, and they've got autonomy to succeed and fail on their own terms. And I think, Garth, you and I have talked about this in the past, where we're curious about why Ted's decided to do different things, in particular with Nate, and allow him to fail. But I think Virgil's onto something. I think he is meaningfully distributing leadership to build sustainability inside their organization.
Yeah. And I think we're coming from, a little bit of like what was in the past in that organization. It was clearly top down. It was clearly rigid. And so Ted is actually using distributed leadership to break down those barriers and break down those silos, which we've been talking about in the past as well. Virgil, what do you think is a really important quality about distributed leadership that you may have seen in the episode, or even from your role at Fraser or as a coach or something along those lines?
Well, when I was coaching at the university level, every season I would give my assistants the Jim Collins book, Good to Great. We'd have to read that before the season, and one of his tenets in that is the level 5 leader. So in the absence of the leader, can the organization still move forward? And we know how Ted Lasso, the whole series plays out when he finally goes back to the US. How, if they do season 4, can the organization still exist without him in the same sort of intense, way that it does? And so I think that what he does is he employs that level 5 leadership of sort of what I read in that Jim Collins book years ago.
I love that.
So I think it's going to work well because you see it. Everybody gets a chance to be who they are without judgment.
Yeah, I love that. And I think too, you're pointing out, Virgil, the need for like communication around this as well. These level 5 leaders are communicating not only what they're doing, but they're communicating values. And I think they're communicating how to lead. I want to go back to something that Jason said too, which is this idea of autonomy. And we do see a lot of that in here as well. For me, one of the things about leadership that I loved about this episode was the role of Nora, right? Rebecca's niece, who comes in and is just able to give that unfiltered outsider perspective. And I think if you casted that same role as a consultant, Rebecca would have to pay thousands of dollars for that type of consultation. And here's this kid who comes in and clearly knows her stuff, like clearly is able to articulate. And I love that moment when they're side by side on the computers and Nora's saying something and Rebecca's translating it. And then at the end, Rebecca uses the same words as Nora to complete the email. So for me, the leadership lesson here is, and I do this, Virgil, I'd love to hear from you. I listen to my athletes that I coach all the time. And one thing that I do when I call a timeout, one of the first questions I ask is, what do I need to know? What's going on out there? What do I need to know? So I really liked the leadership that Nora provided to Rebecca in that episode. What about you, Jason? What did you see?
Well, I can't add much to what you guys have said. I really do think Virgil's point about building organizations to succeed without the leader is important. I think that's a distributed and sustainable piece. And I really do think bringing that external perspective into your organization, whether it's, the team counselor who's got this lens on everything that's going from another place, or whether it's Nora, who's it's a great pivot, Garth, in the space of consultant. I totally agree. She's brought in a consultant as a teenage girl and has brought incredible value. So I can't add anything. I think those are two incredible leadership takeaways that the both of you presented.
Nice. So, hey, listen, at the end of every episode, we tend to move to a leadership challenge. Virgil, you got a leadership challenge for us?
Well, the one thing, and this comes back to Jamie and that Sam's situation when they put the tape over the Dubai Air logo. My challenge would be to support someone or something that doesn't directly benefit you. And in Jamie's situation, it doesn't. What Sam said, those of us who are from Nigeria, we didn't expect anyone else to do it because it's, personal to them. But to everybody else who doesn't have any connection to Nigeria other than as a teammate, Jamie led the charge. And so ensued, the whole team, followed suit. So that would be my challenge. Support somebody or something that doesn't directly benefit you.
I love
Virgil, leadership challenge accepted. I love that. And I think that comes to empathy, understanding, and connecting with your teams, being seen, heard, and understand. We've talked about Brene Brown before, but I think that really does relate to that. So with that, Virgil, again, I'm going to come back to you. We try to rename every episode, and I want you to take the honors. I know Garth and I are going to take a stab at it after you, but I'd love to hear what you would rename this episode if you had the opportunity.
Well, there's so many ways you could go, but I'd say Courageous Crossroads would be a catchy name for this episode because everybody's at a crossroads and they've displayed a lot of courage. So Courageous Crossroads.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Let's go back. Courageous Crossroads. There's something here around Courageous Crossroads and distributed leadership. Everyone's dealing with their own thing, but I think a really good leader is able to bring people together and motivate them or get them to focus on the organization. In our case, the three of us, it's schools, it's the student experience, it's the faculty experience, the employee experience. But I love this idea of supporting something that doesn't benefit you, courageous crossroads, and distributed leadership. It speaks to the diversity of the role of being a leader. It's got my mind on fire here, Virgil. That's amazing. Jason, do you have another title?
I would offer one. Yeah, and I'm not sure it's going to top Virgil's, but let me take a shot. Make today your masterpiece. Ted says this to Rebecca and Sassy in the opening moments. Reminded me of another saying, you'll never be as young as you are today. Make the best of today. I really think that Ted helps us understand what carpe diem means, like seize the day. We see this in ways of thinking time and time again in this episode. Notably, we see Sam stand up to the sponsor, as mentioned before, and live a principled life, which leads him to fulfillment and purpose. He has seized the day, and result, his leadership continues to emerge, and we see that throughout the episode. In addition, in the conversations with her niece, Rebecca receives some powerful advice, as you said, Garth, from a teenager. She shares a story about standing up for a friend. At the end of the story, she says, point is, sometimes you have to do the right thing, even if you lose. And I think, Ted lives by that. And speaking of Ted, he caps off the episode by sharing, doing the right thing is never the wrong thing. I think we make each day our own masterpiece if we dedicate ourselves to living with principles.
I got nothing. I was trying to come up with something around Nora and like listening to students, listening to like the youth in your organization, something about like bridging between, upper leadership and who you serve and listen to your clients. But I got to go with Courageous Crossroads on this one, Jason. Yeah.
I'll give it an 8 or whatever on your rating scale counts as full support.
I think it's an 8. I'll check with your dad. Hey, listen, that's awesome. Okay. So we would love to hear what you've learned in this episode too, our dear listeners. This was episode 10. A reminder that if you like what you've heard here, rate the podcast, share it with your friends. If we're ever going to get Sudeikis on here, we're going to need your support. Virgil, can you take us home?
I will. Okay. Until the next time, keep leading the Lasso way.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us, Virgil. Thanks, everybody.
Okay,
Thanks, Virgil.